The Somewhere in the Ring podcast is part of the LIONSGATE and eOne podcast network. We hope you enjoy jumping in with Andrew and Ryan somewhere in the ring.
The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
That's my drums. Drum solo.
I
I'm
love
just
it,
do
man.
this for the next 20 minutes.
Did I ever tell you that in high school I had a crush on a girl and she was in the high school band? So
Cool.
I joined the band just so I could talk to this girl, and I had no idea how to play any type of instrument whatsoever at all.
Are you Charlie Brown? And
Yes.
You're just not. You just.
Of course I am. Have you met me? Whenever I get sad, I'm always like just
That's true.
bowing my
There's
head.
always a
and-
small rain cloud strictly above your head and no one else's.
And I always
Yeah.
got that damn dog following me around everywhere.
And I'm always
but,
trying to get you to kick a football and pulling it away just at the last second.
I know I've broken many an ankle. Well, the reason I bring that up, the
Oh, God.
band instructor, he was
Uh-huh.
like, dude, you got to play something. You can't just hang out in band class. So he put me on that big bass drum thing.
Oh,
and
cool.
He handed me sheet music and he was like, can you read this? And I was like, nope, I have no idea what I'm doing. And he's like, all right, well, just hit it when you think you should hit it. So that was my experience with playing
Cool.
the drums.
Oh, man. You know what? This brings up a great point. Public school arts are underfunded. In any just world, he would have been like, no, we have like 4 people lined up for this. You can't be here. But no, they're like, well, we need bodies.
Get in here.
No one's going to be in this class. Fine.
It was the same in college, man. I hate to say it, but I will tell you,
jeepers.
probably the sole reason I got into the theater department at my college was because they were
Uh-huh.
like, we need guys. We need guys in
Sure.
here. Stat.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
This is Somewhere in the Ring. My name is Andrew Sanford, joined as always by Ryan Sprague. And this is a podcast where we talk about wrestling and occasionally high school band. So that, yeah. Hey, that works.
I'm sorry.
It's all,
I'm sorry.
no,
everybody.
don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. We tangent here sometimes.
As we should.
But yeah, we talk about wrestling, pro wrestling, WWE centric, but we'll talk about some other folks as well, as we will get into a little bit. And honestly, given the way of things, probably won't have a choice anytime soon, which is pretty great. A lot of crossover stuff that we'll get into later. But Ryan, how are you? How the heck are you? How was your week?
Good, man. I'm fresh off the heels of attending Friday Night Smackdown live.
Ooh.
So everyone's going to get a behind the scenes look at that a little bit later when we cover SmackDown. So I'm kind of still living off that energy going to that. It was incredible. I'm sure, again, we'll get into it, but it's been an interesting week in terms of WWE and AEW news. Storylines are moving forward as we head to Clash at the Castle in a couple weeks, I think, maybe not even.
I think it's like the like week after. It's like the 22nd or something like that. I'm pretty sure it's a Saturday.
Go figure, a WWE PLE is going to be 25 minutes from where I live in Scotland, and I'm now an ocean apart. It just, but I got to go to SmackDown, so I should not be complaining at all.
Cha-cha.
How is your week? You had a film premiere. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I had a short film with our that I made with our guests, Jim Fagan and Tim Barnes, who were on here last week, called Chemistry Test. Premiered at Tootsie's Video Vault in Brooklyn. It was a lot of fun. Packed house. Got some laughs. Lots of other really, really good shorts. It was a good time. Tootsie's Video Vault. They do it like twice a year, I think. So if you're in the New York area, you can follow them on Instagram. Check them out. They'll be doing another show. It was a really fun show.
Oh, good.
Really, really fun. Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Thanks
and
for
I
asking.
should say, we've gotten so much positive feedback from our episode last week with the guys over at the Yub Nub podcast. People really seem to dig it, so we'll have to get them back on. What'd you think of how the episode went?
Oh, it was great. It was a lot of fun. It's fun to. I want to. Whereas you have been getting us some really incredible independent wrestlers to talk to and other very wrestling-minded people. I am going to keep dragging people onto this show who do not have a lot of experience with wrestling and forcing them to watch absurd matches. I think that will be a new motif that just tickles me. And I think will be fun to play with, especially given, again, the positive response to that episode. So
Absolutely. So, guys, if you haven't already, go back and listen to that episode where we covered the infamous Dominic custody ladder match. It was so much fun.
And honestly, I saw somebody, I won't take credit for this. I saw somebody bring up on Twitter today that the current storylines with Dominic have to lead to a Dominic custody match.
Oh, absolutely.
A custody ladder match. We'll get into that when we get into the Raw recap a little bit. Let's get into the news.
Let's get into the news. Yeah. I'll take the first one here.
Go right ahead.
So I don't know if you listen to Eric Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks at all. Are you a fan?
I read the transcripts quite a bit. I have too many podcast like regular podcasts that I listen to take in too many, but they show up on my news feed all the time, and I'm always interested to at very least read his opinion. Sometimes I don't agree with him at all. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, you know what, that's pretty spot on. So
I am really looking forward to what your opinion is going to be on this news segment. Well, for those of us who can't read and do listen to podcasts like myself, I did listen to the episode. I'm about to contradict my joke because I'm going to read from my outline. So peek behind the curtain, guys. Our first story: Eric Bischoff comments on WWE continuing pay-per-view following Owen Hart's death. So for many who in the wrestling community know about what happened, Owen Hart tragically lost his life during a live pay-per-view event. He fell from the rafters into the ring and succumbed to injuries and ended up dying. And that wasn't it. The pay-per-view went on after that with many, many people in the industry and outside of the industry just questioning how could they have gone on with this. And I found it interesting that we're going on, I think it is, I had it here somewhere. It was about a month ago. It was the anniversary of Owen Hart's death, actually.
25 years, right?
Yeah.
Is that 99 or is that 98?
99, Over the Edge, I believe, was the pay-per-view where it happened. And they brought it up on Bischoff's podcast this week. Conrad, the co-host, asked Bischoff himself, like, if you were in the WWE shoes, if you were in Vince McMahon's shoes, would you have done things any differently, or would you have done what they did? So I actually have a clip from it, Andrew, that I would love to play. And then I want to know what you would have done. So let's hear from Eric Bischoff first. And we will get into what you thought after that. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. You have any conversation at a corporate level, from an office level, however you want to call that, about what WCW would have done had a tragedy like what happened with Owen happened with WCW? Because at the time, the biggest discussion and debate was, should Vince have canceled the show and just called the show off? I think everybody, with the benefit of hindsight, has a different answer. You fortunately didn't have to make such a call, but did you have conversations about that after the fact?
Sure.
Or no?
Sure. Many. In order to check myself, I tried to really ask myself, honestly, what would you have done? Because it could happen. I mean, that incident is shocking and devastating and horrible as it was. And you may hope it will never happen again. But guess what happened with Mark Bagwell in WCW not too long ago, based on this point?
Yeah.
He turned out okay, but another half an inch either way, and he might not have walked away from that. So because of the incident with Owen, and especially under the circumstances, live television, all that, I had to do an audit. He said, oh, what would you do, Eric? And my honest answer to myself. I don't know if I articulated it to anybody else. Maybe I did. I agreed with what Vince did. As cold as that sounds, I likely would have done the same thing. I don't know how I would have reacted under the pressure in terms of my ability to function and communicate and get everybody else on board, because now I'm not just making a decision to go on with the show. It's not just my decision. There's a whole lot of other people that are involved, from talent, some even in production. Whole roster of guys in the locker room that had a personal relationship. So it's not about whether I want to do it, I would make that decision or not. It's okay, if I make that decision, how am I going to effectively rally everybody else that may not agree with me? That's the decision, as much as is it the ethical or moral thing to do. That's one decision. The bigger decision is whether or not you're capable of doing.
Interesting answer. Again, completely in retrospect, but
I'm pretty impressed with his honesty there, because I was, for a half second, I was like, Eric Bischoff better not say that he wouldn't have done that, because I wouldn't have bought that for even a second.
Yeah.
That was pretty refreshingly honest. Especially, I think all of this requires context, and nothing about what he's saying is good. Nothing about what happened is good. Nothing about, like, there's no. I think, of course, in like a perfect world, the right answer would be, yeah, you stop the show. And I think, obviously, again, in hindsight, 20 benefit of hindsight, all that stuff, you go like, yeah, it's pretty awful that they made those guys go out there. And like a night of business decision, of course Vince did that. Of course Bischoff would have done the exact same thing. Of course, I would argue the same thing would happen now. You know what I mean? Especially with a live event like those, when they've sold however many tickets that they've sold. And again, none of this is good.
Right.
Like, it is not a good thing. I'm not speaking in support of that. Exactly. Like, I'm not speaking in support of making people wrestle when their friend just died in the same place where they're about to wrestle. I'm just saying that, like, of course that's what happened. And of course, like, given everything that we know about Vince McMahon, of course he did that. Like, of course, like, the man has walked out into the ring, and this is a severely less tragic thing, but this is the same man who walked out into the ring, tore both quads, and then continued to go on with the bit that he was in.
Right.
Like, there's this kind of commitment that they have. There's a reason that Vince McMahon has swallowed every other wrestling promotion that he possibly could, Kirby style, while he's doing all this. Like, he is first and foremost a businessman, and to shut that thing down and send everybody home probably with a refund would have been bad business. Is a human life more important than bad business? Yes, unequivocally. But yeah, of course he did. And I think anybody else in his position would have done the exact same thing. And there's a reason nobody else is in his position, because that kind of stuff is not easy to do, nor is it good, to do. But that's why he was so massively successful, because he sucks. And most people that reach that level of success suck to some degree. That's just kind of is what it is. And they put business over human life all the time. So, yeah, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying, of course he did it. Of course, Bischoff would have done the same thing. And I'm actually pretty impressed that he admitted to that. Also, I as I had said before, I usually just read the clips. I don't think I've seen or heard Bischoff in quite some time. So that was a little jarring. I was like, oh, yeah, there you go.
He's
he's an elderly gentleman.
He's looking good, though. Looking nice and gruff in his log cabin. And
yeah. I even think he sounds different. The last time I would have seen or heard him was in an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. So not too long ago. But it is always jarring when I see even like the transcripts that get shared. I feel like they're usually accompanied by a younger picture of him. And, he was always such this like young, spry kind of guy. That felt, whereas Vince's persona, I think, was more like, a businessman, button down type. And Bischoff was always the the little scamp, if you will. So, but yeah, that's a really refreshing honesty from him.
I agree. I did ask on our Facebook group, guys, if you're not a member, Facebook go over there, type in Somewhere in the Ring podcast. We're very active. We ask questions of you guys that we do bring up on the episodes here. And I asked, what would you guys do? I'm going to ask Andrew the same thing. And every single person on there replied, no, I would not have gone on with the show. And while I do agree with them, none of us were in this position to do such a thing, to make such a quick, immediate decision that could cost them millions and millions of dollars, their entire reputation. But like you said, the bottom line in the WWE, in wrestling in general, has always been money. It's a business. It's entertainment, but it's a business. So none of us could really honestly answer that question other than Vince McMahon, or in this case, maybe Eric Bischoff. And I too applaud him for being honest and not using it as a chance to get back at Vince and be like, no, I'm totally the angel on the shoulder instead of the devil. So yeah.
Wild stuff.
Well,
Just a tragedy that we will just hopefully this question never has to be answered again. Kind of a situation. I think he's right in that it could very easily. Like there have been so many people that we were just talking about Eddie Guerrero just last week. Passing out in his hotel room that could easily happen in the ring. Darren Drozdov injured in the middle of the ring. Big E injured during a match last year. And now, don't get me wrong, with the injuries during the matches, they tend to stop the matches. They don't stop the whole event, though.
No,
and it's not a death, but it is a machine that moves a certain way, and they're doing everything in their power to make sure that it moves the same way every single time.
Exactly. And the last thing I'll bring up, during this period when Owen Hart died, you had the Monday Night Wars sort of happening. There were many wrestlers in WCW who ended up going to the funeral, missing their WCW events. Bischoff said, go. I don't care. I don't care if you're the headliner. Go. But this was also the same time that Sting was making his famous entrances from the rafters, from, a la like Shawn Michaels style, if you will. So he does also in this interview talk about precaution, after an event like this, and how much more the WCW learned from this. It was a cautionary tale.
And look, if you watch those Dark Side of the Ring interviews or doing any kind of like WWE, it is all their fault that this happened to Owen Hart. It is 100%. Pretty much it is a systemic failure that led to his death. And it's something that they never really had to be held accountable for. People tried, and Vince fought back like the terrible, awful, no good human being that he is. So
yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I hate that we had to start with a story like this, but I thought it was worth bringing up. But let's move to a cooler story. You want to take this next one? Let's swerve, if you will.
Swish. So Swerve Strickland, the current TNA or the current AEW champion, basically said that he thinks that now is a time that's more likely than ever for the AEW and WWE to start crossing over. It says here you have a clip. We have a clip of this as well.
I do. You want to give it a watch?
Let's hear it from the man himself.
Cool. Sound good.
There's this power shift over what they're calling the Triple H era, right? Could you see a world in the future? Because I think at Mania, a lot of fans were hoping that John Moxley was going to pop out.
That was funny. I thought that was funny.
Because I was like, oh my God. When I heard the Shield music, I stood on the chair. I was like, Dean Ambrose.
Knowing John, he's probably like.
But could you ever see a world in which there's some sort of like they're never going to officially emerge talent, but where there's some sort of bleeding of the DC and Marvel universe in any way?
If there's ever a time it could happen, now's more likely than it's ever been.
Right.
I don't think either person is opposed, but if there's ever a time, as far as Tony Khan and Triple H, I don't think there's ever been a time that's more likely than now.
That's good to know.
The percentages.
The percentages are higher than
the percentage went from 0.04
to maybe 2, 3%,
2.4.
You'll take it,
and that's more than we've ever gotten.
So specific. I love that. It's like he's actually worked it out. Yeah. So what do you think?
I don't buy it. No? Not even slightly. And what's funny is there's two factors. Not to root for the home team because I'm sure there would be just as much benefit. I think WWE currently is doing that. Like, they're crossing over with TNA. They're doing some other things to kind of do this their own way without giving any bump to AEW. And I do think that, a bump could be shared both ways. I don't buy, and I like, for instance, I think Shawn Michaels is pushing a lot of this stuff. I feel like, especially that's why we're seeing the crossovers happen in NXT. And even with that, like the fact that, and we've seen some teases like Drew McIntyre teasing about the TNA crossover and things of that nature, about a door swinging or opening both ways. I think it's telling that TNA is on NXT, which is like their farm system show, and not any of the main shows. If it was Jordynne Grace against Bayley, then I think like, oh, they actually are opening to crossovers. There's still this idea that they're considering TNA low enough that they're going to put them with their younger, not ready talent. You know what I mean? To do a thing with AEW, there would have to be equal footing. And I do not think that WWE would be willing to do that. That being said, I also think that Tony Khan runs his company like an erratic child a lot of the time. And I just don't see it. I think he could maybe like one day be like, yeah, we'll do it. And the next day being like, man, no, not doing that. Like, it's just, that's how he behaves. That's how he operates.
Right.
He has filled the bratty billionaire Vince McMahon role without actually like to converting that into anything useful yet. It's just kind of how he operates and behaves. It's not like at least like an on-screen character or not in a good way anyway. So I see him being the wrench in the plans. I see both of them being the wrench in the plans. I clearly they said 2.4% chance, and I think that's like, but the now being more likely than ever, I think that's just him taking a deserved shot at Vince McMahon. While still kind of acknowledging like nobody like WWE is going to be crossing over with UFC. You know what I mean? They don't need AEW. Exactly. I would argue that AEW needs WWE a little bit more, and because of that, they would have to make a lot of concessions that I doubt they are willing to make.
Hence why they are calling out WWE talent. Ospreay just this past week almost did like a recruitment of sorts of trying to get Ricochet to come over, calling him out by name and saying, hey, I would love for him to come over here. I hear he's not getting to the level he wants to be over there. We'll get him on the level he wants to be over here. Like, it always interests me. And the other thing is, I do agree with you, because I remember when I was a kid, like, huge G.I. Joe fan. I had hundreds of them. And I would, I'd set up these scenarios every day of like, what battle were the G.I. Joe and Cobra going to have today? And then I remember, like, my dad would come home and he'd be like, hey, I bought you a new G.I. Joe. And I'd get so excited. And when he'd hand it to me, it would be this like off-brand G.I. Joe from the dollar store. And I'd be like, the hell is this? And he'd be like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're the same thing. And I'd be like, no, they are not, Father Sprague. No, they are not. They shall not fight with my G.I. Joes. And I wouldn't. I'd have these rejects off to the side. And, maybe every now and again, I'd bring one in and just, throw him off a cliff or something in my storylines. But yeah, dude, it kind of reminds me of that. I don't think that WWE G.I. Joe needs the dollar store off-brand to keep going.
Ooh, I thought that's where you were going with this, but that is rough.
Hey. I love Swerve. I love there's many wrestlers in AEW that I like, and I root for them. But I love me some Adam Copeland.
Who just did one of the worst. Oh man, he hurt himself so bad in that cage match. That was one of the worst bumps I think I've ever seen. I was like, why did he land standing like that? Like,
did you see his video after that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He even said,
he didn't break his legs.
Yeah. He said that was one of the dumbest things I've ever done. And he's like, I'm learning my age now. I'm truly learning my age. And I wish more wrestlers would do that.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways,
that's the thing. How can they when you got 60-year-old Billy Gunn out there wrestling every single
and
week,
killing
looking
it,
like
yeah.
$1 million? But yeah, I think that if anything, what would be kind of funny is that it would almost just need to kind of happen out of nowhere. No build up, no nothing. Like it's just like almost like an AEW pay-per-view where it's like this is going to be a series of matches without any like real storytelling going on.
Right.
But then there would also be too many concessions. Like how do you have MJF lose to anyone in the WWE roster? And how do you have anybody in WWE who this comes to like an inherent problem between the two brands anyway, and the problem, being depending on what kind of wrestling you want to watch, which is that AEW will like really get behind like one or two guys to really, really push them. And like debatably that's mainly worked with MJF and not as like MJF is like becoming a bit of a superstar, and they have some other superstars that were superstars before they got to WWE or to AEW. But they have a hard time really building up these stars, which is where that's what all WWE does.
Right.
Like that is build up these stars to the point where you might get sick of people sooner. So like where it's with AEW, you're constantly like, oh, man, I haven't seen Ricky Starks in like 2 months. And then with WWE, you're just like, I have to watch Jey Uso again. And I like Jey Uso. I just like whenever Joy, my wife, walks in and sees that I'm watching wrestling, she's like, why is it always these three people? And I'm like, that's because that's how they do.
Good
And
question,
that's
Joy.
how they end up sending. But that's how they end up selling merch. That's how they end up getting these people on like Fallon and getting them outside wrestling appeal and things like that. They are about making superstars, and AEW, and a lot of that involves like long term showing you the same people over and over again. Whereas AEW is almost like drawing names out of a hat to a certain extent and just snatching up free agents and then just letting them languish backstage. It's weird. I like it. That might be a thing to keep it from happening too, is that their styles are just too different. Whereas like you could draw more direct parallels between WWE and WCW back in the day.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I don't see it anytime soon, but the forbidden door is always open. Well, let's talk about something interesting, our last news story, and that is Becky Lynch. Her contract's up, and she did not re-sign with the WWE yet. So yeah, there's a lot of rumor and speculation going on right now that is she gonna go to AEW? And or somewhere else, or is she just done? Is the last time we're going to see Becky Lynch have been this steel cage match on a Monday Night Raw against Liv Morgan? So what do you think? Is she going to resign? She clearly is having a well-deserved break at the moment, but what comes next for Becky Lynch?
I would probably see like a little break. I don't see her going anywhere, but I could see her being like, look, I just need some time. I don't think it behooves her to go to AEW. I don't think that would necessarily be like a bad thing. But she, like, again, they've just shown that they are all about signing new people and then not necessarily knowing what to do with them. They just want to be able to say that they signed them. Like, I think Mercedes Moné has been one of the biggest examples of that, and something that I actually was reading Bischoff talk about as well, where they just kind of have been having her talk for the last month and a half instead of wrestling, and then she finally wrestles, and it was like a good match, and she won the belt, the TBS title. But it's straight. They are not good at pushing new talent as well as they could, or as well as they say that they're going to. Whereas like Becky Lynch, but like I think Becky Lynch has hit her ceiling in the WWE, but I don't think that's she closed out that feud with Nia Jax. There's no real there's nothing for her to do over there. Doesn't necessarily mean she's going to leave, but I can see that as being a reason why she hasn't re-signed yet. Maybe she just had the book. Just maybe she tries acting for a little bit. Who knows? I'm not sure. Her and Seth Rollins have a kid. She could just maybe want to be around her kid for a little bit. Like, there are plenty of reasons to not go back. But there aren't as many reasons for her to go somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Well, And, you know, the thing with WWE has always been when someone goes away for a long time, that is the best thing you can do when they have hit a ceiling is send them out, you know, send Batman out to train and
Yeah, but
then bring him back,
yeah,
you know?
I am sure, but I would argue here that she doesn't need that. Like Becky Lynch is a brand. She's a talent. She has done more than enough for herself. I think maybe like mentally it would probably be good to get away for a little while, but we're
Mhm.
not looking at like a Cody Rhodes or Drew McIntyre type situation where she's going to leave and go reinvent herself. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, I think that definitely happens all the time. And for instance, someone who I think could benefit from that is Chad Gable, who will be whose contract is apparently up on Friday.
Mhm.
As of this recording, or it might have been up already. Like that's somebody who could go away for a little while, maybe become TNA World Champion or go wrestle a stronger program in AEW and then come back a main eventer instead of a mid carder because he is good enough to be a main eventer, but WWE just doesn't seem to know what to do with him. And I don't think his heel stuff that he's doing right now has been his strongest.
Yeah.
I think
He's
it's a good
trying.
attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying. It's trying really hard, and I like it on him. But there's with that one there. I love that WWE does long term storytelling. I don't need to see the same is Otis going to hit him moment one more time. I just don't need to keep seeing that. I get it. I get it. If anything, they're taking the longer it takes for Otis and Akira Tozawa and Maxine to break away from him, the more it lessens their brand as opposed to like heightening his. So
True.
I am kind of I think he could go away, but I think Becky Lynch doesn't need WWE. I think WWE needs Becky Lynch more than she needs them. Because she's a great wrestler. Having Liv Morgan beat her put Liv Morgan over pretty significantly. So
Absolutely.
she's worth as much as she wants, and if she doesn't come back, I could see why. But I just don't see her going anywhere else.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's WWE or bust when it comes to Becky Lynch at this point.
Yeah,
But who knows? Stranger
Yeah.
things have happened. But I do agree. I think it's a well-deserved break, and who knows? We'll see what happens next. But Andrew, let's take a quick break, buddy, and we're gonna come back with our recaps of SmackDown and Raw, and then get into this is gonna be fun. Our top 3 dream projects that we think the WWE should do. That's going to be a ton of fun. So, guys, stay tuned. We will be right back somewhere in the ring.
Go to commercial break. Commercial break. Commercial break. Go to commercial.
This episode is brought to you by Absurd by Design. Artist Miguel Romero brings your imagination to life with custom artwork in his meticulous and unique style. You don't have to look any further than the brilliant podcast logo art right here for Somewhere in the Ring. We could not be more satisfied and inspired with what Miguel created for our podcast. So, whether it's book covers, promotional ads, special gifts, or even podcast logos, Miguel works with you directly to create a piece of art for any occasion or project. Commissions are now open, so be sure to check out his work and get Absurd by Design. Visit absurdbydesign.wordpress.com or click the link in the show notes. Thank you again to Absurd by Design. Welcome back, guys, to Somewhere in the Ring. I am Ryan Sprague. With me, as always, is Andrew Sanford, and we just went through the WWE AEW news of the week, and we are moving to our recaps and reviews of both SmackDown and Raw. And Andrew, I went to SmackDown this week, so
Yeah, you did.
this is going to be a fun little recap, I think.
Have you been to a SmackDown before?
Yes.
I know you've been to a Raw. You have? Oh, cool.
So when I would say maybe 13 or 14, I went to a
Nice.
SmackDown in Utica, New York with my dad, and it was a Thanksgiving one.
Hey,
do you remember those? How fun the Thanksgiving
where they would
ones
just
were?
have a food fight for some reason.
There
So
was
funny.
I believe the one I went to, there was a gravy fight, which you know what that means.
probably somebody in their bra and panties wrestling in gravy. would be
Yes,
my
it
guess.
was. Yep,
Oh,
yep,
God.
yep. It's
Um,
funny to me that as a 14-year-old, and even now, I can't remember who those two were, who was actually in the match.
Can't
But
imagine why.
yeah,
All I want to know is, did you get to see with my favorite SmackDown stage, which is the big fist coming out of the Titantron?
I believe it was. Yeah, I would have to
That's
go
my-
back and look. Ooh, I love it. That was my favorite set. That is my favorite set
Yeah.
of all time with WWE.
Yeah, it's real good. It's real
Bring it
silly.
back.
There was
Bring it
also at least one wrestling game, because it's always how I relate, where you could climb up onto the fist and jump off of it,
I love
which is
it.
pretty sweet. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
awesome, man.
That's pretty great.
How
was it? So
man.
how was it? And was this the same arena that you and I saw Raw in
Yes.
back in December? Cool.
I actually was able to show my dad exactly where you and I sat, which
That's
was
amazing.
like hard camera. We were on camera.
Did you show him where I left a lighter outside and was able to retrieve it afterwards?
It was still there. Actually,
It was still there.
Yeah,
It's pretty great. It's pretty great.
we found your
Thank you,
Didn't you
Albany.
lose something when
I
you were
left. I
there?
lost a phone charger. I took my coat off and a phone charger fell out.
I found your phone charger, so remind me.
perfect.
I'll mail
Nice,
it to
perfect.
you.
Yeah.
It was cool though, man. Like we scored some incredible seats. I'll actually right now. I'm gonna put in post. I'll put an image up of where my dad and I were sitting. We were fourth row, right behind
Heck yeah.
the commentators. Holy crap, man. I don't know how I scored those seats, but my dad was just like, oh my
Beaming.
God. Yeah. He was like,
Cool.
he was like, how did you get these? And I'm like, I'm somewhere in the ring, baby. Come on, man. Wheeling and dealing. No. So, and then, it was me, my dad, and then a empty aisle seat. So we were pretty much on the aisle, but there was one seat right on the aisle. And I was like, oh God. I like turned to my dad. I'm like, I really hope whoever sits next to us is cool and not like, annoying or not into it or whatever. And if she's watching right now, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but hello. I gave her our business card, which I should show you. I handed out to hundreds of people at the Albany or MVP Arena. She took a card and she said, I will definitely give it a listen and a watch. Dude, best person you could have sat next to at an event ever.
Love that.
We talked the whole time.
Oh, nice.
The entire time. She is an encyclopedia on the WWE. So, and we were just like, we were cheering for the same people most of the time, but when we weren't, it was just a friendly debate. But oh man, so that was great. And yeah, just like we're gonna go over what happened during the taping, but like a lot of people don't know, there's matches before it goes on the air. When we went to Raw, you and I, they did that.
Dark matches,
and there's matches after. I don't believe they did that at Raw. Because that was
they did
long
not.
event.
Yeah. I feel like that's more of a like an every now and then thing. Because also one of the things we talked about is one of the matches that you got to see after the fact were between two Raw wrestlers. It was almost like they were like kind of practicing because then they wrestled each other last night.
Exactly.
Correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bring those up at the end. We got 2 dark matches after SmackDown went off the air, and dude, like main eventers. It shocked us. Like we were like, are they really doing this off camera? It's insane. Awesome. So we'll get to that. But
all the time they'll do dark matches. Some of the post-show dark matches are nuts and are like main event level stars and matches.
Exactly. They might not be in the storyline at the moment, but they're huge and they're there. Right. So why not let them, let them wrestle. So let's get to it, I guess. We started with a dark match between my favorite. She still has to win me back. Tiffany Stratton defeated Tegan Knox in a dark match. Wonderful match. Very high, intense velocity match. And it was Tiffy time that night. It was definitely Tiffy time for my dad, too. I think she won him over as well.
There we go.
Yeah. So that was interesting hearing my dad comment on Tiffy time.
We can keep going.
Yeah, moving on. But that happened, and then we had a speed match too. They recorded a speed match, which was Andrade versus Carl Anderson, and Andrade was on the show later that night too, so he got to wrestle twice in one night.
Wow! Oh wow! That's so funny. I feel like no one knows what to do with Andrade.
I know.
It's so crazy to me that he's doing the speed matches. Did he win the speed match? Or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that just seems.
Actually, should I say that? Could I get in trouble for that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah.
I mean, people were recording it and stuff.
Right.
So I guess,
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah,
but
come after me, SmackDown. I dare you.
They just don't know what to do with him. The AEW didn't know what to do with him. WWE didn't know what to do with him before he went to AEW. And now that he's back, they still just don't know. I feel like for all intents and purposes, Andrade should be a main eventer, and he's just not.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
The whole thing with LWO, and it's just a mess. It's all a mess. Like, I think they're just stuck in this purgatory of constantly putting all these like Hispanic wrestlers against one another. And maybe it's a style thing. Like you're getting unique matches out of a lot of them because a lot of them have a different style than, some of your bigger, brooder sort of wrestlers. I don't know.
Yeah. Nobody separates the races quite like WWE does.
Very true.
It's embarrassing to a certain point. Like and sometimes it can be really empowering. We were just talking about, we have a interview with Casey Lennox that comes out on Friday, which was fantastic. And I loved getting to talk to her about seeing Bianca Belair and this is the second time that Jade Cargill and Naomi tagging together at a WrestleMania. Like, that was moving and powerful to see 3 black women together and just beating people up like that and being so powerful. But in that same vein, I feel like they're always like, I don't know, we have these 2 black people, let's put them together. All right, we have these Hispanic wrestlers, we can put them together. And then, it's always been a thing in WWE. It's really strange. It's really, really strange.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, the speed match was whatever. I know your thoughts on the speed matches. I think they're super fun. I hate the fact that it's exclusively on X, but
yeah, I was about to say it's all right because as we've learned this week, you can scroll from watching a speed match right down to watching hardcore pornography, and that won't be an issue. I think that's not even a joke. That is like Twitter announced that they are allowing pornography on the site now, and then they're just like, why won't Disney come back? The idiots.
Perfect.
Just the worst.
The smartest people imaginable.
I guarantee you that those speed matches are not going longer than a year because WWE doesn't want that either. They're like, just absurd. Just the worst company.
X, we hate you. People. We hate you to the core, even though we're on your stupid platform.
No, call them Twitter. That is the only place Twitter. You're allowed to dead name and it be okay.
Hi, Twitter. Hello. Yes, we know you're listening to us right now. We hate
Twitter
you.
as an entity.
Let's move on to what opened the show. This is pretty cool. They got us really pumped up, and they brought out what's his name? Nick Aldis, I believe. Is he the guy on SmackDown? Yeah.
Yep.
And Pierce he got us all. Yeah, there we go. Adam Pierce. Nick Aldis came out and got us all pumped up. SmackDown started. No fireworks, which I don't know. Do they do fireworks on SmackDown? Or they've not done that in a while?
I actually I forget where I saw this recently, but apparently TKO / UFC, whatever, I guess TKO would be is making WWE cut back on their fireworks.
Okay. I will bring that up later in the show too, because there was another moment where I was like, you got to be kidding me. I told my dad this was going to happen and it didn't happen.
Yeah, they, I believe it was seen as a pretty unnecessary expense.
Okay. Well, then I have a question. Sense. I have a question because something happened during one of the dark matches, but we'll get there. But we had the coronation of Nia Jax. So she officially got her crown, and that was cool. The crowd absolutely hated her, and she just nailed it, dude. She soaked it all up. I am loving her work as the queen of the ring. Have you seen her videos? She's doing these videos now where someone from WWE was following her backstage, and she literally stopped the person. We don't know who it is, but holding the phone camera, and she's like, get down on your knees.
You bow down. Bow down, peasant.
That's more like it. She's just soaking it up. What happened? She called out Bayley to come out and said, hey, I'm challenging you at SummerSlam. And as Bayley came out, who was
Wait, really?
Yeah, she was like,
she
"Yo,
challenged her
Bailey."
for SummerSlam. Didn't they
Yeah.
just announce that Piper Niven is facing Bailey at Clash of the Castle?
Well, what happened was when Bailey came out, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green came out and beat the crap out of Bailey and came in the
Okay.
ring and were like, "No, you're facing Piper Niven for the belt." So yeah. Or for the chance at the belt. I don't know.
No,
It was
I'm pretty sure it's a
interesting.
title match. That's still just
Yeah.
it's very silly. And I like Piper Niven a lot, and I'm
Me
excited to
too.
see her get a title shot like that. But it kind of the having the King of the Ring challengers getting title shots at SummerSlam, it feels like it takes it almost like makes what happens over the next couple of months with those belts moot. But we'll see.
I do agree, but at the same time, I think it enhances the Queen and King of the Ring because before it was like
Yes, I
it
would agree
didn't
with that.
really even when you won, all you won was like the title, like I'm the
Right.
king. And now there's actually something behind it, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
But you're
which
right.
Xavier
You're right.
Xavier Woods, the last King of the Ring from 2021, had fun with that news on Twitter. He was just like, "Oh, great,
Oh,
that's cool
awesome.
that you get a
Yeah.
title shot now for winning King of the Ring."
That was like when I left college, they got like a brand new sports complex, a brand new theater in the theater department. They're
With
like,
your
"Oh,
money.
yeah." They were like, "Oh, Ryan's gone. Let's build all this stuff and then ask
Sure.
him for money to
Yeah.
help us build
Yeah.
this stuff."
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywho, we then got a Tommaso Ciampa match against Austin Theory,
Oh.
which was cool. But I thought it was going to be DIY versus A-Town Down Under, but no, it was actually a singles match, and it was good, really good match. But then at the end, what's his name? The Australian guy there, Grayson Waller. Yeah, he distracted Theory enough where Ciampa got the win out of it. So now we're starting to see Austin Theory and
Oh.
Grayson Waller arguing, and it
What
looks
the
like they might
heck,
be
man?
trying to break them up.
They just gave them those.
I know.
Sometimes sometimes what WWE wants to do with people is so clear and makes sense and is really satisfying. But man, I would say like 70% of the time it's stuff like that where they just are spinning their wheels. And like I feel like they put those belts on those guys and wanted some kind of instant reaction. And
Just
yeah,
didn't
that seems silly. That seems really silly. But
yeah, it was, it was a good match, but it didn't really do much.
Right.
Then we moved to a fun backstage promo with LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes actually showed up. Oh, dude, it was so awkward. I don't know if you saw, but Carmelo Hayes was like talking to LA Knight and he accidentally like called LA Knight Logan Paul. He like messed up the name. or he said like, "Oh, I know you're going after the belt against LA Knight." Speaking to LA Knight. And LA Knight
Right.
responded. He was like, "Oh, well, the only way I could do that is if I was looking in the mirror. So why don't you learn my name before you come out here and try doing this?" Oh, I felt
Oof,
so
awesome.
bad. Like,
Awesome.
I feel like Carmelo Hayes, since he's come up, he's botching matches, he's flubbing promos, and he's good. He's so
Mhm.
good. I think he's just in his own
I was
head.
about to say his match against Randy Orton was pretty good.
It was good. It was good.
Mhm.
But I think this is LA Knight and other people kind of putting him in his place and being like, just be careful, man. Like you can flub up in an instant and you just did it on national television. So, but yeah, basically that was LA Knight's way of calling out Logan Paul. So we're going to see a match against those two in the near future. They're having a fun feud on Twitter and Instagram right now too, which I highly suggest people go watch.
You want what I have, huh? That's funny, brother. Here's the thing. I don't give a damn what you want. I don't care. I'm chilling. I'm living my life as the champ. Went on a date tonight with my honey. She's pregnant. I got a whole life ahead of me, and that life doesn't involve you.
And then we got Kevin Owens coming out and calling out the Bloodline. I have a quick video, if you don't mind. These are videos I took when I was at SmackDown. Paul Heyman came out right before this match that went on with the Street Profits and the Bloodline. And I just took this video of Paul because, or
Wait,
Paul
the
Heyman.
Street. Full disclosure to everybody, I did not get to watch SmackDown on Friday night because I was at the screening we talked about. So it was Bloodline against the Street Profits. Are the Street Profits heels right now? It was a heels versus heels match, or
I
did
guess
they?
so. Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah. Kevin Owens came out and Paul Heyman gave this incredible promo, and Kevin Owens did too, where Paul Heyman's like, dude, don't mess with this bloodline. This is not the bloodline I signed up for. They're criminals. They're thugs. He sounded like Trump, to be completely honest. And he was so emotional. He's like, Kevin, like, don't do this, man. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to save you. And then, Solo came out. This is all like during the middle of the night too. I thought this was going to be like the main event sort of thing, but Owens and Solo like went off into the MVP arena fighting somewhere. I probably should have went out and saw what was going on, but I stayed and watched the match. The Street Profits versus the Bloodline, the Tamatanga and Tangaloa, I believe is his name. Yeah. And I took this quick video because when the cameras are not on you, you might not be as in character sometimes. So you kind of get those moments when you're there live watching where you see wrestlers turn off performance mode. But this was a moment when with Paul Heyman was not on camera and he just stuck with the character so much. So I'm going to play that quick. Dude, he was literally crying because he was so like distraught with where the bloodline is at right now and stuff. And I wanted to catch that because I'm like, this dude is an incredible. There's a reason he's like the biggest Hall of Famer ever now. So yeah, that was a little exclusive I got when I was there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. Let's move on quickly here. Chelsea Green, Piper Niven defeated Bayley and Naomi in the main event, basically, of the night. So that was a pretty good match. And then this is what everyone's been talking about. AJ Styles came to the ring to basically retire. And 26 years he put in the business, and he came out in this paisley blue suit. He looking like I don't know, looking like a minister or something. Just not what I was used to with AJ Styles. And came out and gave this heartfelt speech about how he's missing all these things with his family, and he's kind of ready to put the boots up. And he wanted to call Cody Rhodes out to thank him for his final match with him. He was saying that was his final match, basically. And Cody Rhodes came out, and we got this heartfelt moment between the two where Styles thanked him, and Cody said, no, thank you for all you've done. You're a leader in the locker room. I don't think I'll ever be able to live up to what you've done, but thank you for, 26 years in the business. And I have one more video, Andrew, of the major moment of the night that went viral. Can I play that?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is from our seats.
Beat red.
I know. He's going to pop.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the big twist of the night. We thought it was going to be a retirement. Turned out he did a Mark Henry swerve and beat the crap out of Cody Rhodes, and we actually cheered for him. What was that?
I think so interesting because I think people love AJ Styles. I don't care about him fighting Cody Rhodes. I thought there was going to be a world where we would have ended up seeing Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton feud this summer, which I would have looked forward to a little bit more. I feel like there's obviously a lot more history there, but yeah, just an odd. I feel like they're kind of spinning their wheels right now because they don't have anything like big coming up immediately. There's also I believe. Something else we probably should have mentioned real quick is that the Department of Justice asked Janelle Grant to pause her lawsuit against WWE and Vince McMahon, which presumably means that the DOJ is doing something on their own.
Yeah.
So we'll see who's still with the company in like 2 months or a month. You know what I mean? There have been
Yep.
plenty of rumors that people, Triple H included, Nick Khan included, maybe found implicit in what's going on. So that could be why some of the storylines are a little. We don't know what we're doing because we don't know if we're going to be here next month.
That's
going on.
scary. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
like it.
scary in a good way.
In a
Scary
good
in a
way.
good way.
In a
Yep.
good way.
If the Department of Justice is getting involved, it means something even worse than what we already know was happening.
Which I didn't think was possible. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. So that was when SmackDown went off the air, but
Mhm.
we got 2 main event dark matches of the night. So I'll quickly go through that, I promise. We were treated to a dark match with Sheamus defeating Ludwig Kaiser, which was
There we go. 2
awesome.
Raw superstars.
Yep, they came out and we went nuts, and not
Yeah.
expecting to see either of these guys. Amazing match. And Sheamus is still playing up the whole fat thing,
Sure.
which he's embracing, which I think is great. I think it's utterly ridiculous that anyone called him fat when he's in better shape than 99% of us. Let's be completely honest. But he came out like all winded, and then at the end of the match, he started like hitting his stomach, and everyone in the audience is doing it. It was really, it was fun, dude. He did the 10 chops on Ludwig, which was awesome. Great match. Took some photos with people in the front row, blah, blah, blah. And then we got a second dark match, which was Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso.
Right,
Oh
yeah.
my God, man.
Wild.
And talk about like, this is when they used pyro. McIntyre's full entrance, like all the flames.
Really?
It was incredible. And dude, from where we were sitting, like it felt like we were on the sun. Like my dad was like, like what the heck was that? I'm like, that's the flames, man. Those are the flames of Drew McIntyre. It took them a solid 25 minutes to actually get the match started because the audience they played it up so much.
See,
whether they were
on top of my first thought is just like, oh God, what time did you get out of there then?
Dude, it was more like a Raw. Like I told my dad, I'm like, dude, we're gonna be in and out 2 hours. We'll get back to Syracuse in no time. We got home at like 3 a.m. It ended up going. The 2 dark matches after it went off air was probably about an hour and a half to maybe closer to 2 hours long. It was insane.
Oh,
but
God.
We got our money's worth. I will tell you that.
Sure.
Fun match. Let's see. Originally, Drew McIntyre won the match, but then he literally said, no, don't ring the bell. Like he won on a disqualification or something. He's like, no, this match will continue. So then they went back in, and Jay actually won the match, and it was fun. Jay celebrated with the audience. He gave some kid his Yeet glasses, pulled the kid over the barricade, and was dancing with him at the apron. And, just left the audience with what they came for, and that was to see like these superstars. And Jay is really winning me over. I know I've given him some crap in the past, but it was just like CM Punk, man. I'm one who's easily swayed. I'll put it that way. So all in all, I give this SmackDown like a solid B plus. Like it wasn't amazing, but it furthered the storylines. And
you had a good time.
It was
really
a lot of
all
fun.
that matters. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
All right, should we breeze through Raw?
I'll fire through this Raw recap. Yeah, because
Okay.
I got like about 20 minutes before I gotta get these
cool.
kids up. Let's see. It was a big Judgment Day showing. Here at Raw, we got a lot of we got some more Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio stuff with Liv Morgan basically saying that she wants Dom. She wants to take everything that Rhea had. We had Finn Balor defeating Dragon Lee with JD McDonough and Carlito running in to help. Was there any more? Like I feel I'm excited by how much more Carlito we're getting.
He was on a lot.
Yeah, Braun Strowman then defeated Carlito, and then Judgment Day attacked Strowman after the match. I'll be interested. We still haven't seen the Bray Wyatt 6 or the Wyatt 6 stuff yet, even though they keep teasing it. And I feel like they're probably going to come in and wipe the floor with the Judgment Day would be my guess.
Oh, good.
Then we had Kaiser versus Sheamus, and probably why they had them wrestling on Friday.
Yep.
Braun Breaker defeated Ricochet, and I gotta say, there's a moment during this match where Braun Breaker hopped up onto the top rope and did a Frankensteiner to it's incredible. The dude is so nimble. which I don't think I've gotten to see him be nimble like that yet. And
Same.
and again, I'll say that when he does a spear, it looks controlled and safe. And he's that I like that Braun Breaker. I'm excited to see what they do with him. Kiana James made her debut and defeated Natalia. Oh God. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair defeated Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler.
Baszler. Yeah.
Baszler. Jey Uso did a promo saying he wants to win the Money in the Bank, which I wouldn't be too surprised with, but I would also, maybe that could make sense for a next step for him.
I guess such a random like call out thing though in the middle.
But hey, look, the last Money in the Bank winner won the belt. So
true. Good point.
And that was a big push for Damian Priest. Lyra Valkyria was attacked backstage by Io Sky. And because, again, more Money in the Bank stuff. The Authors of Pain defeated the New Day, which is fun because I could have swore the Authors of Pain were NXT now, but here we go. And then Damian Priest defeated Rey Mysterio. And then after the match, Drew McIntyre ran in and attacked Priest. But Priest was able to flip that attack around and get the best of McIntyre. Very excited to see their match at Clash at the Castle. Very intrigued by how much Punk is going to be. I think it only makes sense that I think it's going to be Punk McIntyre at SummerSlam. I don't think you need the belt for that. And I feel like Punk is probably going to screw over McIntyre again, but we'll see. Could be wrong. Wrong.
Yeah. All in all, it was a pretty good Raw, storylines furthered. Got the whole Dirty Dom and Liv Morgan thing happening, which I'm loving.
Yeah, it's probably one of the more fun things they're doing right now.
Yeah. I like it a little too much. Is that weird? Like, I don't know.
When you say it like that, it is.
It's kind of turning me on. I'm not going to lie. I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry. Maybe it's the mustache. I don't know. I don't know. See, people are probably expecting me to say, oh, yeah, Liv Morgan. Yeah. But no, that mustache it's working for me.
Dom has a very attractive greasiness to him, so I understand.
I get that. And we've been talking a lot about him lately. That I know. But yeah, even Liv Morgan, I'm really like loving what she's doing.
She's great.
She's just killing it. I can't wait for this all to come to a head when hopefully Rhea Ripley comes back.
That's I wonder if she'll be back before SummerSlam. I don't know if I know the extent of her injury, but I don't think that's possible. But maybe it'll be like a Survivor Series type deal.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. We're there.
Our top three. Let's do it.
Let's run through it. Our top 3 dream projects that we want the WWE to at least try that will enhance their brand. So this is us saying we are much smarter than everyone working at the WWE.
It is.
And we are experts and not just lovers. So listen to us. So let's do it, buddy. Let's do the countdown. You go first. What is your number 3 dream project?
I, because it always comes back to stuff like this for me, would like to see a video game sampler kind of game that has elements of different video games from the past. And I don't even know if this would help them as much as it is me being selfish, but like almost like you would have like your All-Star Mario, Super Mario, or your whenever they release a game. I think they did one for Ninja Turtles recently where they're just like, oh, here's a bunch of different Turtles games from the past. I think it would be very easy for them to release like a PS5 game that's like, oh, you can play the Super Nintendo WrestleMania game, or you can play WWE No Mercy, or you can play the very first SmackDown versus Raw. Like it would probably be harder to put some of the newer games in like one collection, but like a collection of the older games, I think could be fun. Could give people a little peek into the past. Probably be wildly expensive to get everybody's likeness rights, but I don't care. Dagnabbit, spend the money. You got TKO money now. Spend it.
You got that TKO money. I love it. That's a great idea, man. That would probably get me back into video games, to be honest. Absolutely, I love it. All right, my number 3 is I think there should be a Teen Titans-esque cartoon with wrestlers. Dealing with things.
Cartoon was almost going to be one of mine too.
Yeah, it seems like how have they not done that yet? Like there's been comic books. Rey
Well,
Mysterio
they've
has his own
done
comic book.
video game, or they've done cartoons in the past, but it's been quite some time. I think they even tried, if I remember correctly. Oh boy, I'm gonna try to pull this up really quick.
Okay.
Because when the WWE Network launched,
Mhm.
yes, it does exist, and it is exactly what I thought that it was. So, there was a cartoon in 2016 called Camp WWE. It had
What?
2 seasons. We've got Vince McMahon, Ric Flair, Sergeant Slaughter, Lex Luger, The
Oh my
Godfather, Jake
god.
Roberts, all these people voicing themselves, and then they had a bunch of people voicing um actual stars. As somebody named Ashley Bowmanchyn voiced John Cena and The Rock. Ali Feinberg voiced Stone Cold, Brie Bella, Nikki Bella, Stephanie McMahon Page. So this has happened somewhat recently. I
All
still
right.
think it's a fun idea. I think you're other, but for whatever reason, yeah, that just did not go over for them last time.
All right. Well, there you go. Give it another try, guys. Again, Andrew and I would watch it for sure.
I think it's more of they have to put their whole foot forward, as opposed to, there was a point in time where I think WWE was really trying to get into other media, and it went by very quickly. But they even have you ever seen their Leprechaun movie, Ryan?
No? Like in the
Yes,
Leprechaun franchise?
Yes. However, it is like a gritty reboot. And I remember Hornswoggle plays the Leprechaun. And I remember hearing, when I heard that, I was like, oh, good for him. Wait for it. They basically, for whatever reason, in this version, they're like, oh, but leprechauns are actually feral beasts that live in the Irish woods. It was like a gritty Batman Begins style leprechaun reboot. And so Hornswoggle is just in bad prosthetics and stuff like that, and is like a little monster. I would love to talk to him about his experience on that, because I'm sure it was terrible. But it's I think if you look through, there's probably at least 1 or 2 WWE produced movies where you're like, really? But most of them are very bad. You have your Marines, all that different stuff. But there was a point where they were kind of trying.
Yeah. And with some successes, but mostly failures, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. There's my number 3.
Seth Green created Camp WWE. Sorry, keep going.
That does not surprise me. That does not. And that could have worked. Look, Seth Green created one of the most famous Adult Swim cartoons of all time.
Yeah, it can't doing a show about oh, it's the WWE characters, but as kids at a camp is a fun enough idea. I just
look at Little Rock.
It's one of those things where back in the day when they would do something like that in the 80s, which I think there was a different Camp WWE, there are 4 channels to watch, or 6 channels to watch. And now there's a deluge of children's entertainment. And they're like, yeah, but when you sit your kids down to watch a cartoon, you want to go to the WWE network. That's not a thing.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Such a good point.
All right. So my second idea that I think WWE should try is a little bit of a reboot, kind of in a way that yours was. I want a WWE themed restaurant back. Now, not one giant location, which I think is their mistake for the first one. Franchise it out, scale it down, have more do it like an Applebee's or whatever. But when you go there, the TVs are set. Heck, you could have tablets at this point, and just each table has a tablet hooked to Peacock or whatever, and you can watch whatever WWE match you want, or you can go there to watch pay-per-views. I still think that was a good idea. I think doing it in one location was a bad idea. Kind of what killed it, because then their prices had to go up. I also remember you and I have both. I remember hearing at one point as a Broadway bartender that one of the main reasons that WWE New York got shut down is somebody got overserved and then got into a car crash. Then
yes, I that was used because, for those who don't know, Andrew and I, that's how we met. We both bartended on Broadway, and he was my boss at one point.
It's right around the corner. Hilarious. That's true.
Yeah, and now we're the best of friends, obviously. But yeah, I do remember hearing that as sort of a cautionary tale of what has happened in the Times Square area when you overserve people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty sad.
But yeah, so that would, but for me, give me a WWE restaurant, franchise them out, get them out there. Then you could even have like, you know, even if it's not like a ton, it could be an easy way for like, oh, hey, D'Lo Brown. And I love D'Lo Brown. D'Lo Brown probably doesn't need the money, but they could have like more like wrestlers popping up at different restaurants. It could be a terrible idea, but I think it's, again, just something that I want personally, is I want to be able to take my kids to get an overpriced burger and maybe watch the 2001 No Way Out. I got to go to WWE New York once when I was growing up, and it was, yes, with an uncle of mine who is no longer an uncle. He was an uncle through marriage, and he is somebody, if you have ever seen the A&E special, The Man Whose Arms Exploded, that was this gentleman. Yes. And he everybody assumed that he was a wrestler. His arms exploded because he did too many steroids, to answer your question. But because he was huge, everybody assumed he was a wrestler, and everybody kept walking up and asking for his autograph, which was kind of funny. But yeah, I remember I got to step foot in there once.
That could be the craziest story I've ever heard, Andrew. Wow. Interesting. Well, hey, I don't think it's a bad idea at all, because that actually was my number 2 as well.
Hey, look at that.
But can I add a concept on top of your concept?
Yes. I'm so interested if our number 1 is going to be the same. I think it might be, but I'm very excited.
So I thought, and I can't pretend that this was my idea. I heard it on another podcast, but I did kind of mess a little with the concept as well. So shout out to the Wrestling Ringer podcast for sort of giving me this idea. But like a medieval times, but WWE. So
sure,
you can watch pay-per-views and all that, but you also get to watch live wrestling. And this is where I think you could really use the whole NXT thing or these, even the indies, like get these wrestlers to come in and do some quote unquote like dark matches in the middle of the ring. Everyone's sitting around them, eating their soggy chicken tendies and drinking their whatever, Dr. Pepper. And you get to watch. I like Dr. Pepper. What?
I like Dr. Pepper too. It's just, keep going. Sorry, keep going.
No, I just think it would be cool. It would be so unbelievably degrading to the wrestlers in a sense. But
well, no, I think what you do there is you probably have like, they have licensed all these different kind of characters. You get a big guy who wrestles to wrestle as Kane, and you just don't make it, you do stuff like that.
You could do,
like do some of the bigger character things. I will say this is one of those instances where I'm just like, oh man, they would have to be unionized for this. So that's probably the one thing that's standing in the way. But now I'm wondering if medieval times performers are unionized. I wonder if they're SAG or
are they still going?
More likely
are there still
equity?
Isn't there one in New Jersey?
I believe, yes. I believe our good friend Nick Westermeyer went to one recently. With his family.
We'll have to ask him about that.
But yeah. Oh yeah, they're still very much a thing.
Okay. So yeah, I thought, the restaurant idea, I think it's there. Like it can work. They just
I think that's a nice logical next step. Sure.
Yeah.
It would be even more expensive if there was live entertainment.
I know.
But again, you never know. I think that makes sense as a way to like upgrade it almost.
Yeah. Great minds think alike, buddy. Let's move to your number 1 dream project for the WWE.
And this is something where I think it should happen for a plethora of reasons, especially I'm not the first one to say this. There have been plenty of wrestlers who have turned down the opportunity to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame because there is not an actual building. There is not an actual Hall of Fame. And that would be my number 1 thing that I think that they should do, is to make a WWE Hall of Fame that you can actually go to.
That's awesome.
Maybe there's a live event there once a month or something. I don't know. But even if there's not just like a place, I guess there's a show now. A friend of the podcast, Joe Capetit, was telling me about it, where they are trying to collect like WWE artifacts. Like he was specifically telling me about an episode where they're trying to
fun show.
Track down a specific Mr. Sacco. So like there's they know how to get a hold of it, but just like to be able to go into a place where it's like, oh, here's the first mask Rey Mysterio, or when he wrestled for WWE, or here's the Shockmaster mask, or here, like, whatever they could find, stuff like that. Here's just a wall of different John Cena shirts. Like there's, I think people would go nuts for that and do something that's like a little bit interactive as well. Like take the fan experience that you usually do for WrestleMania and just make it a year-round attraction.
I love that.
I think people would travel for that. I think
And
people would, it just makes sense.
Have our live event wrestling restaurant there too.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Hey, there you go. See,
I love that idea. So shout out to Joe Capiti, by the way. I do watch that WWE collectible show. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
And when I was at SmackDown in Albany, I sent you a photo because up in one of the windows was a sign it said, coming to Albany, New York, MVP Arena, the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And I freaked out. I sent you the image immediately. I'm like, dude, what is this? Like, have you heard about this?
You kind of inspired my choice by sending me that picture. Honestly.
And we both are under the assumption they don't mean like a WWE Hall of Fame, but more like different territories, maybe.
Exactly. Like it'll probably be the Von Erichs and
which is still awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But we're talking like straight up WWE.
A WWE Hall of Fame, which could have WCW people, it could have ECW stuff, like it could have all the all the stuff that they now own that they have again swallowed, like Kirby could be in there. I do think that it's probably one of those things where, because I think even the Legends contracts have to get like renewed and renegotiated every couple of years, but they are they're weird. There was somebody recently who said that they didn't want to be on a Legends contract. Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I recall that too. Who was that?
And they were specifically, they were just like, like I have a video game license that I think it was Bischoff actually.
It might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like if you get inducted into their Hall of Fame, you're in a Legends contract where it's both like you get paid something, but then also you're kind of at their beck and call for a certain.
And you can't do other things.
Yeah, you can't do other stuff. So you're so that might be part of it too, is that they would possibly have to shell out money to like lock down rights to people's names for who knows how long.
It would be a lot of legal stuff. That's for damn sure. Probably a headache for any attorney working there.
It's not like a baseball Hall of Fame where baseball players more often than not aren't like, still trying to play in teams when they're older. And now that I say that, there are some that definitely do that, but they aren't in the Hall of Fame.
That's true.
And some are. But anyway, what's your number one, Ryan?
My number one? Okay. Well, it's not the Hall of Fame. I love that idea though. But since we're a podcast, I thought I would keep it in that realm. And I thought it'd be cool if there was a podcast from former writers of WWE who come together every week to discuss what storylines and characters they worked on and have those wrestlers on with them to get the writer's perspective and the wrestler's perspective.
That's a great idea.
And it would be WWE produced. So you might be getting kind of a filtered version of everything.
Oh, of course.
But I thought like what would be cooler than hearing like, because we don't get to hear about the creatives. I know you know several people who might or might not have worked with promotions on writing for
I don't know what
for
you're talking
things.
about.
I don't either.
I'm certainly not going to admit to that. With a microphone in my face.
Okay, I'm making that up, guys. So, but I just thought it'd be cool, like to see the struggles of a writer working for the longest running live television event of all time, which is the WWE, and what that job is like, and then have the wrestler come on, and what are the struggles, what are the relationships between writers and the wrestlers, and how much do they influence one another? Like, as a playwright, a screenwriter, like there are times where actors and directors can influence your words for 100%. The better or for the worse. And 100%. So yeah, I thought that'd be a cool idea to just bring them together and let's get another peek behind the curtain since they're giving us so much already. So
yeah, I love that. They used to have like a roundtable dinner talk show that had like a similar-ish kind of vibe for the WWE network where it's like, oh, Mick Foley, Gerald Briscoe, and the Sandman are going to have dinner together. Like it was that kind. It was usually pretty fun too. Yeah. I think there would be like 5 of them, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think giving the writers a voice have Freddie Prinze Jr. host it, and then just go from there. I think that's a very good idea.
He's got a great show too. Everyone should check out the Freddie Prinze Jr. podcast.
And I mean, he's supposed to been teasing starting his own wrestling company for like a year now. I feel like.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it. You know what? Do it. He's got the money. He's got the money. I think. I don't know.
Still rolling in that Scooby-Doo, them Scooby-Doo bucks.
That she's all that money too, baby. Come on. Awesome, buddy. Well, those guys were our top 3 dream ideas to pitch to WWE. So you're welcome, WWE. I know you sorely needed our help in all of this. So and Andrew, one thing before we go, is that cool? I got to share something with you.
Do it.
So I think it was twice during this recording today. You kind of have a catchphrase that has come up on every episode, and actually people have reached out to me about it.
What?
You do? Do you know what it is?
No.
Dag nabbit is your catchphrase, and I have had several listeners reach out to me and tell me how much they love that you use that word. And for many of them, including myself, it conjures one image for me, and that is the Looney Tunes.
Sure, Yosemite Sam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm showing you this for the very first time live during this recording,
God.
which is available now in the Somewhere in the Ring merch store. You ready, buddy? This is our brand new T-shirt, now available in the Somewhere in the Ring merch store, on sale right now. I had to, man. I had to.
Oh God.
So if you are just listening to this, head on over to YouTube and you're going to get a sneak peek at our brand new T-shirt, which is Andrew saying "Dag nabbit," and guess who made this?
Who?
This was Miguel Romero, who made the logo for our show.
Mwah.
I had this.
Thank you, Miguel.
Made for you, buddy.
Incredible.
And you can get it on sale, guys, right now in the store. It's literally on sale. It's $16 as opposed to the normal like $22. So Andrew, you're gonna have to break the bank and get a few of those for you and the boys.
I guess so. Apparently, yeah.
So that is in the merch store right now, guys. You can help support us over there and get the new Dag Nabbit T-shirt on a mug, on a sticker, and now on hats. We have hats now in the merch shop. Did you see that?
Hats. I did see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get one of those as well.
Same.
So
ditto.
Check that out, guys, and
amazing.
Help support us over there. But you're welcome. You're welcome. Anything else before we go, buddy?
I got nothing. That's I think it comes from an attempt to not swear in front of my children, which I do anyway. But then if I say things like Jeepers or Dag Nabbit, just know that that's why. That's why.
I love it. And I know there were a few times that our clips had profanity. I will edit those out, guys, so you will hear the infamous beep during those as well. Because, yes, we do know we probably have younger people who listen to the show. Speaking of which, I handed out over 100 business cards of ours at the Smackdown in Albany. I talked to families, kids with their dads in the age range, and asked them all to check out the show, and they all said they would. So if you are listening to this or watching this and you were at the MVP Arena at SmackDown, thank you. Thank you for taking a chance and giving us a try here. Hello to all of you. Special shout out to my Albany crew. And we welcome you to Somewhere in the Ring. So thank you. And thank you to everyone, as always. Andrew, tell us where we can find everything, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. We got, I had the outline closed, but just because patreon.com/Somewhere in the Ring podcast. All of our match commentaries are up there now, except for like one. So if you want to hear us talking about some sweet, sweet matches, head over there. Twitter at Some Ring Pod, Instagram at Somewhere Ring Pod, Facebook group Somewhere in the Ring podcast. If you're in the New York City area and you want to celebrate Ghostbusters Day in style on June 8th, I wrote a Shakespearean quote unquote version of Ghostbusters called The Merry Busters of Ghosts that we'll be doing a staged reading of with Random Access Theater, a company that I love working with, at their home, the Rat NYC in Dumbo. So come check those out. They're always a good time. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, get your tickets today because they sell out real quick once we get within a couple days. And if you can't make the 8th, January 9th, we're premiering Merry Busters of Ghosts Part 2, which is real silly. I won't be there for that one, but it's still going to be a really fun show, and that'll be like an afternoon brunch show. So head over to theratnyc.com to check that stuff out.
Awesome. Shout out to Random Access. I have worked with them in the past as well as a playwright. So love them. Check them out. Support them, guys, and support Andrew's incredible work over there. I am going to be speaking at an event called Monster Fest 2 in Canton, Ohio on June 28th and 29th, which is coming up pretty damn quick. So head on over, guys, to smalltownmonsters.com and get your tickets. I'll be doing meet and greets and panels and live podcast recordings for my UFO show, Somewhere in the Skies. So get your tickets now. They're pretty cheap for these types of conferences. You are getting your money's worth with this one. That's for sure. So head on over once again to smalltownmonsters.com, June 28th and 29th. That's Monster Fest 2. It's going to be a lot of fun. But that's it, Andrew. So I guess I will let you do the honors since we now have a t-shirt of you in the merch shop. Dag nabbit. Ring that bell and get us out of here.
I'm gonna shoot it. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. That's what I'm gonna go with.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.